Okay, so if you are looking to jump into real estate, if you're looking to grow in understanding deals, whether it's you individually or you as a group of people, this is really, really going to be an important conversation for you because my man Scott, all right, my man Scott has done it for years, and he's done it on all different sides. And he's also a cowboy. So we're going to talk to a cowboy, a true cowboy today. And I just this guy right here has been really meaningful in my life over the past few months. We've really gotten to share life together, and he's taught me a ton. He's a Denver native, which is also rare. So we're going to jump into this conversation. I just want to give a little bit of a precursor because we're actually going to be talking all things real estate, buildings, how do we even make a good deal, the art of a deal, maybe even that kind of like conversation. I guess that is a book. I just now thought about it. That is a book, but not necessarily that book, just like deal making in general. So, okay, Scott, really quick, you are a cowboy. And when I found that out, I thought that was one of the coolest things. Tell us a little bit about yourself growing up in Denver, the come up, cowboy rodeo lifestyle, that type of thing. So give us your come up a little bit in Denver.
So I grew up in northern Colorado,
Okay.
and we lived in the country. There's a lot of different definitions of a cowboy. We were on the side of training horses and showing competitively. We did cutting and reining, and then we also taught other people how to ride and stuff. But I was on a horse from the time I was 2 or 3 years old, and lots and lots of stories and lots of competitions. So I guess one of the funny things to say is every time I got a ribbon, I had to wash a horse. And so I probably had close to 1,000 ribbons. So if you can imagine, thousands of hours on horses and teaching a lot of kids, a lot of other people that I was growing up with. We were in a lot of different groups. We were in 4-H, and then we also showed competitively through the Court Horse Association. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of stress. As a kid going into the arena, competition, and anybody who's in sports completely understands that anxiety and all that stuff, and the getting ready to compete and then hoping that you win and that kind of thing. But it was good. I mean, and learning how to take care of animals, fantastic. I would think every kid should have that.
Lately, I've been thinking about competition, and even just this past week, I was like, man, I need a little bit more simple competition in my life just to help keep the competitive edge. I think it's really important. What are some like? Okay, so obviously you're a real estate agent now, and you do a lot of different things when it comes to real estate. But when you think about competition and horses, what are a few things that people may not know about horses that really, or even just dealing with horses or the competition side of rodeo? What are 2 or 3 things that really taught you, that maybe even gave you a little bit of an edge? Mentally or physically, or what are some things that you learned that you've carried with you from that?
Persistence and patience, which I'm challenged with anyways. But I think to bring a horse from the beginning stages and to train them all the way to the show ring or to go to show, it's a long time. So it could take to really have a horse ready. Could be 6 months, could be a year, but it's training every single day and working with them. And horses, they have a lot of personality. They get jealous. They have a lot more characteristics than you would imagine. So, but the other part I think is just being in any kind of sport. I think is fantastic as far as the things that you learn to stay with it and don't give up. And when you do lose, to lose, in a good way, not to be bad or down or sour about it, but to keep on moving and learn from what you didn't do and make it better next time. which applies to everything in life, you know.
That's interesting that you said learn how to lose. Do you can you elaborate on that? Because how are you applying that even just right now in the world that you're in? Like, how do you apply maybe what some may consider a loss? Like, how do you view losing now because of that time?
I think that, you know, there's all positives and negatives every day, whether you're actually losing money or you're just losing, you didn't get a job, or maybe a client wants something else done that you didn't do, or whatever. I think all of those things are losing in a big way, you know, or a small way. And so just to be persistent and just keep on keeping on and never give up.
Okay, so teach us persistence then. I would love for you to teach me persistence and patience right now. I'm struggling with it. Let's say I am. And let's say that that's like an issue that I may have or someone's having. How would you begin to teach them persistence and patience? I guess those are two different things. Let's begin with persistence.
I think that's pretty easy, actually. And this is taught in a very simple way, and a lot of people don't realize the significance of it. But the first of all is to have your goals, and say those goals twice a day, and even more if you want. Say them every hour, whatever it is. But have your heart in it when you say them, and then get away from negative self-talk, and get away from negative people. So. I don't get involved in the news because it's not positive stuff. So I stay away from it. My life is happier without it. To each his own. I know I still need to know things about the world, but as far as being persistent, I think that persistent arrives from you having a passionate goal to get somewhere. And if you don't have that, then you have no reason for persistence.
So you would say that if someone's not persistent, then the goal that they have in their life probably isn't the right goal.
I'd agree, yes.
Yeah, okay. So like their passion actually helps them be persistent, but because they cannot not go that direction. They have to. They have to see the thing that they want come into their reality.
Correct. Now there's one other thing you
Come
can
on.
do. Okay,
Hit me with
now
it.
Close the door so you don't have an exit.
Oh, okay. So like a burn the boats type of mentality, or no turning back, or going all in. Okay, so how do you know the goal then is worth going all in for?
How do you know that you're moving forward with God?
Okay. Okay. So you would say that. How would you say that in a different way? Say that in a different way, or ask me a different question, because that's a good thought.
How do you know your path is the right one?
Okay. How do you know your path is the right one? So you would say that in a lot of ways, this is helping you become the best version of yourself?
I think, well, there's a lot of different aspects of that. Pick the thing that you love to do,
Okay.
and everything else will follow.
Okay.
And then we've all heard that before. But if you pick the thing that you love to do, in which I'm doing what I love to do, and I have no reason to walk away from it. So my work is actually my fun time. You know, it's what I enjoy. I'm not showing up to something that I don't want to do.
Yeah, it's like it's that idea of if you choose something that you're passionate or that you love, you don't really work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Even though it is hard work, you're willing to put the hard work in because you're enjoying where you're going and a destination, but you're also enjoying that journey, so to speak. You know, like where people are like, "Oh man, it's the journey." Well, it's also like who you become on the journey, and the new things that you learn about yourself, and the type of life you get to live. So as you are doing this, the rodeo, how many years did you do that?
Well, I started riding horses 2 or 3 years old. I rode them all the way into probably my early to mid 20s. But I was heavy into competition probably from age 15 to maybe 20.
Okay. So mid-20s, how do you get into real estate? How do you start getting and going that direction? Because that's an interesting story.
So there's that could be a two-part question.
Please.
Do you want to be in real estate as an investor, or would you want to be in real estate in some other aspect? But I'm assuming it's probably about real estate. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. House hacking is. Do you know what house hacking is?
No, hit me with it.
Okay. So you go buy a house somehow, and you rent the rooms out in the house that you live in, and you get it stabilized, and then say 12 months down the road, you rent the last room that you're living in and go buy another house because you've accumulated enough money to go to the next house. That's one way. Another way would be, like I was just talking with someone this morning, that you can go buy a fourplex, up to a fourplex, with an FHA loan, which is 3 or 5% down, pretty much no money. If the deal's good and it cash flows, you can get into it for little to no money, and you can stabilize it, and FHA will allow you to get it stabilized for a year, and you can move on to the next property.
Okay, so which one would you recommend for somebody who maybe doesn't have as much savings? Would you recommend house hacking then?
I think every person's situation is different. There's also for sale by owner, and that's a good deal because there's an owner who has potentially a tax consequence, like you and I have talked about, and they don't want to sell because they're going to have to pay all the taxes up front. So they might carry a note for 5 years and maybe do some kind of a step program so it works out for both of you.
Okay, I love that. If somebody is starting from scratch, and obviously, it's different depending on that person, and they are thinking about getting into just real estate in general. It could be commercial, it could be residential. How would you begin to work with them in their finances, in their state, where you are saying, this is, if I could start over, this is where I would recommend you thinking, because most people don't think like this unless they've been through it. Take us maybe back to, if you could even start over, some of the things that you would think differently about.
Well, I can tell you there's a lot of things. First of all, I would find a deal because the deal starts there, and then find the source of money, whether it's private money, owner sale, whatever it is, to get that property. But make sure that property makes sense financially. It's going to cash flow. It's going to make money. It's got an upside to it. Maybe you can create value in it. Maybe you fix it up, do something to it, run your numbers for your cost and what it's gonna pay out, if that money's gonna pay you back on the repairs, which is called a value add, which is what we do all the time, and big or small, and then go after the property. Because if you find the deal, the money will come.
Okay, when you talk about deals, I think a lot of times people don't know, what makes a good deal versus what makes a bad deal. What are some things that somebody should be looking for when it comes to finding a deal, that you would say that's a good way to think about it up front? That's a good place to look, because in a lot of ways, it's when you find one, there's a lot of hunting involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad deals out there.
Yes.
So how do I, being a novice, know the difference between a bad one and a good one?
You would want to run the numbers to make sure that the rents are going to pay the expenses. And you want to be 25% over that minimum, because the bank's going to require that, first of all. Right now, some of them are requiring 30 to 35% more. So if your expenses were $1,000 a month on the property, then you'd have to have $1,250 to maybe say $1,350 coming in to cover those expenses for the bank. But then also, depending on the deal, you may have to have 20 or 30% down on the property, an equity position. That doesn't mean you have to come up with the money necessarily, because you can create that in the buy. So if you have a property that you buy and it's got an equity spread already because you've got a good deal on it, you can show that to whoever your lender is, and then you can prove it. And so you've already got money in the deal, and then you just have to make sure it cash flows, which is also what we do, because most of the time we come up with no money out of pocket.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. And when you do that, it just makes the most sense. Okay, so if this isn't making sense to somebody, even take a even further step back, because a lot of people, before they even know to get a good deal, they need to look at maybe even their savings and maybe even their own cash flow and even what they have in the bank. Because in a lot of ways, before you go get a deal, you may need to check on a lender or a bank to use. Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think you probably want to know where you're going to stand as far as getting money. So you definitely do. The other thing that you definitely want to make sure is that the place that you're buying is in a good location for whatever it is, whether it's an A, B, or C property. It doesn't have to be in a rock star location to make money. Everybody goes after different deals, but the C properties are going to make more money. It's just a little bit more risk. The A property is going to make less money, but it has less risk. So your, say, apartment complex that has all the amenities and it's in a prime location, 5-star schools all around it, that's your A property. Your C location is the ones that don't have that, and to whatever extent. And then there's the Bs that are in the middle. But I guess to answer your question, finding and evaluating the property, I can help anybody do that. There's a lot more to running the numbers. I've done that for 30 years now, and we've gotten really, really good at it. We can look at our property, and plus, since I'm in construction, we bid properties all the time. I bid properties all day long, and I'm old school. I do it. I mean, I literally go down to the nuts and bolts, and then I add the labor in, and I know what the numbers are. I don't use a program to bid, so I know exactly my numbers, and I know how to explain them. But anybody can learn that. So you can learn from different programs. There's podcasts or there's trainings or whatever. You can buy a book. You can learn all that stuff on how to evaluate a property.
Are there specific? Obviously, there's a lot of variables when it comes to numbers, and you get down like to the nuts and bolts. But what are some basic questions that you would say, hey, here's where you begin to start asking the right questions. If you don't know a ton, or if you do want to know more, here's the main questions you need to be asking yourself, so that you can begin to position yourself right now to maybe they can't do an apartment complex, but they can maybe do a 2 to 4 unit, like you were talking about.
Sure.
Because the maximum, I think you said right now with was it FHA loan?
Correct,
is a
yeah.
4 unit.
You can go up to 4 units.
Okay,
yeah.
so let's begin there.
Okay.
So what are some questions that somebody should be asking themselves when it comes to running the numbers, or even a few numbers that they need to know to be able to begin to look for a 4 unit, in your opinion?
Well, let's say I'm going to go buy a 4 unit, and let's say I pull up all the available 3 and 4 unit properties that are available for sale, or even I call some people to find some pocket listings, something that's not listed, something that maybe there's a deal on. The first thing I want to know is, why is the owner selling? Which gives me all the direction in the world, because it tells me whether he's motivated or not, or he or she, whether they're motivated, and what their goal is. Again, like we were talking about, somebody who has got a tax consequence, that's a great situation. If you find somebody who's in that spot, then you can actually work a deal out where it works out for both of you. But that's where I would start when I go to find a property. I would also, you can find rent comps for a property. So there's several different softwares, different apps you can go on to find it. Rentometer is one of them. And you can find the rental average for that area, highs, lows, and median. And you can take a look at the price of the property, take a look at what the payment's going to be, your insurance, taxes, add all those things up, whether you're going to charge utilities or not, add all that stuff. You evaluate the property, and then find out what the rents are, and then take in a 5 or 10% vacancy and calculate that in. And and then you can see whether the property is going to cash flow, and then make sure you feel good about the property.
Okay, so as that, those are really good questions, and those are really good numbers to think through. Just even if someone's going to buy a house that's going to be their primary dwelling, those are great. Like that's a great beginning space to look, because in the world that we live right now, in a lot of ways, people say all the time it's going to be impossible to buy a house in the future.
True, but there's creative ways to get there, and people don't know that.
No.
So there's one other thing that people don't know, why real estate is such a good investment. And this is what exactly turned me on to it in the beginning. So there's 4 different ways to make money on real estate. So if I go buy a property, first of all, that fourplex, it's going to appreciate. Second of all, I can write the depreciation off against my taxes. So the income that's coming in will wash out with the depreciation to a huge extent. So then you've got your cash flow each month. So hopefully you're making, if your expenses are $1,000, maybe you're making $1,500 a month in rent. So you've got $500 extra to put in your pocket, and just the ability to move forward with the property. So you've got we've got depreciation, appreciation, cash flow, and a principal pay down. My bad, I forgot. So the principal pay down on the loan, you've got principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, depending on how it's set up. Your principal is getting paid down by somebody else for your mortgage payment every month. So those are the 4 things. How can you go wrong with that? And that's why I signed up. So,
it's a 4-angle approach of how to be successful and what you actually get out of it, the property too. And when it comes to creative financing, when it comes to thinking through it creatively, what are some good resources that have helped you be able to learn or think through that others could maybe even lean into?
I think, depending on your budget, I would start with books if your budget's low.
Well, best books. Give us a few if you can think of them.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, gotcha.
Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, that was the thing that I had read a lot of stuff prior to that, but that was very, very good, and it made my perspective on real estate and buying completely different. So it was huge.
When would you encourage somebody to start investing in real estate?
Now.
But that's true. That's true. Okay. So now, yes. What age would you recommend? Even like, let's say, your son.
Teach your kids.
Yeah.
Take them to whatever training event. You can go to real estate meetings. They have investment clubs. Every city has an investment club, big or small. And if you don't have one in your city, you can go to another city that's close by and get involved and get to know the other people. And you don't have to pay into any kind of a big educational program, because they'll sell you one. But you can learn from the other people and get to know them and learn how they did it. And then just take little steps as much as you can and read books, listen to podcasts. I mean, there's a gazillion podcasts out there that you can listen to.
No, there definitely is. I'm excited for you to come out with yours one day. That'll be really good. Okay, so as you look at all the properties that you've had over the years, do you care to give people the different types of scopes of properties that you've had? Because I think it'd be a good conversation for us to talk about, individual investing, and then maybe even purchasing as a group. So purchasing as an individual and maybe even purchasing as a group, because you have a little bit of experience in that too. And you've owned some really old buildings. A ton of old buildings, which your background in building has helped as well.
Yes, well, I grew up in construction,
right?
So that helped me out tremendously. I didn't do a lot as a kid other than push a broom. I learned a lot of it after I got out and got started. So a couple different perspectives on that. So if I'm buying individually and I'm finding a property and I'm adding value to it, I can go X far. But the best way to look at this as far as scaling and being on a bigger level is, let's say that you have a $100,000 property it's gaining 7% per year. Let's just say it's appreciating at 7%, which is about the average in Colorado. So, but what if I have a $100 million property? See, look at the returns. And so even if I'm splitting that with other people, we are all making out way better on a $100 million property as we are on a $100,000 property, because we're getting back more. And then magnify your principal pay down, magnify your cash flow, and then your depreciation from the income coming in. So the more, the bigger that you go, everybody's making more. It's just on a bigger scale. So learn to get there.
Okay. We're now talking about $100 million properties. This is exciting. That feels impossible. Okay. That just
it's the exaggeration point to get
right.
to get the
No. I get it. But like, can you reverse engineer that? Okay. There's somebody here, right here. She's right here. She would love to have a $100 million property. Okay. Help her reverse engineer how to get there, because she has a few properties. Let's say she has 2. Just to throw that out there randomly. Let's say she has 2. Get her from those 2 properties to the $100 million property as maybe even a group effort like we're talking about.
Well, let's say that she decides to go find that $100 million property, or say it's $50 million, say it's $5 million, whatever scale that she's comfortable with.
And would you say that that's important to think about? So like, if I'm wanting to do that $100 million property, I need to think in terms of, okay, these 2 together, the cost, let's take that next step at this cost, and then the next step at this cost. Would you say that that's probably the cleanest way, or the best way to do it, and the only way?
No.
Okay.
That's an option.
Okay.
So it's all on your comfort level. But if you actually found a really good deal on a $100 million property, then you'd bring in partners for the experience that you lack.
That makes sense.
To get the deal done.
Yep.
But if you find the deal, then you still make your part for whatever you negotiate.
Okay, teach me how to build that network slowly as I scale to that kind of thing. How do I find that person or those people? Does my age matter?
Not at all.
Okay.
No. And I hate to say this, but neither does credit, because everybody wants to still have good credit, and you should have good credit, but people do it with bad credit still. So, but if you go to the different investment groups, start associating with other investors, and there's lots of ways to get connected with them. There's different places online. You can become part of groups, investment groups. But you can still do anything at whatever level that you want to. It's your comfort level and what you're ready to go forward with. But you can learn to get there. It's just getting it done. So, I mean, and there's people that do stuff on that scale, on that level, that probably don't know very much at all, but they find a deal, and they know just the numbers to bring the deal in, and they still make it happen. Sometimes not knowing something and not knowing what can happen is better, because you are fearless to the consequences. And you just keep on going, and you learn them along the way, which is kind of the trial by fire.
Okay, help me with the shortcut. I have a shortcut idea, all right? Let's say the shortcut idea is me getting involved at a small amount of money. Let's say I get a part of a $10 million deal, and I'm only going to put in, maybe the minimum is like $100,000, but I'm going to go in on that. And it's like, would you say that that's a good way to start getting into those circles, is finding a big deal where there's a group effort that's going to be in, and then you get in at it and maybe at a smaller percentage or a smaller rate? Is that?
Absolutely. I mean, for somebody who is maybe on the flip side, somebody who has the money but not the time, and they want to get into a deal, and say they maybe down the road they want to start doing their own deals, but they still don't have the time, this is perfect, because then they can get in, they can experience the deal, they can see how it works, and they can get a good return on the money. So, and if you look at real estate through the years and all the people who've become extremely wealthy in real estate, it's not a bad gig.
And the younger that you start, or the sooner that you start, the quicker that you can allow the time to be on your side.
Yes, if I would have known now what I should have known back when I was in my early age, I would just go 100 miles an hour at it. I would love to go back and have that opportunity again to scale at a young age. And if anybody is truly interested in doing real estate, learn it now, and Don't be spending time at the bar. You know, come inside, learn it, and get a plan, get a goal, and get fixated on it and move forward.
Okay, so Scott, if you were to tell yourself a few things, your younger self a few things, what would those few things be? Because you say, and I love this, you say you'd go 100 miles an hour. You're going 100 miles an hour right now, so I do know that to be true. But also, like, if you were going to be able to talk to yourself, maybe yourself in 20 years, or even right now, if you were going to go back to the 20-year-old, 25-year-old version of yourself, what are a few things that you would tell yourself?
I think that's very easy. The first thing is go find people to learn from, because you can read books and you can sit in your home, but you're not going to move fast. You got to get out. You got to get to know people. You got to know what's available. You have to learn from other people because it'd be the fastest way. You can read, like I said, you can read a book, but you can also get free information going to investor groups. So go get to know those people. Find out what they did. Listen to podcasts. I mean, it's a great thing that we didn't have as kids. You know, there was no podcast. So all the people that are making money now, there's some people that are, I think, truly making it, and other people are talking about it. So pick and choose what you think is true. But I would just jump into it and learn and associate yourself with those people, because you'll move fast that way.
I think the hardest part in what you just said is figuring out who to associate yourself with. Figuring out, okay, I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about, getting a coach and getting somebody to teach them and to learn from. But then they asked me the next best question, which is, well, how do I know if they're a good coach? How do I know if they're actually worth listening to? How do I know if that's worth my time? You would, without being able to take all of the information that you have and going back, what are those key pieces of information that we would miss, or that would help me know if this is the right person to even listen to when it comes to real estate?
Do they have the details? Did they do the deal? Have they actually succeeded at it? Have they succeeded? Have they failed? If they did fail, what did they learn? Do they have proven numbers on paper that show that they know what they're doing?
Okay, so the best way is experience.
If you're going to follow somebody, you want to make sure that they're walking the walk.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest parts is actually finding somebody that is truly available, because when it comes to that experience, and you're right, like the book side, is actually vital. I think when it comes to also building a network, you're doing that, and a network of people. What are some new things that you've learned lately about where the world is, with the world of real estate, maybe even in Denver, that would be really helpful to somebody maybe that's even in real estate right now?
So real estate there's always a deal. Just to start off with, any economy, no matter what, there's always a deal, and you make your money in the buy. It's not in the sell. So don't buy for appreciation. But to give somebody advice right now.
Hold on. You make your money in the buy, not the sell. Most people think that it's the opposite.
Correct.
Can you explain that for us? Because everyone thinks you got to sell high, when you're ready to sell. But it's more about buying low. Is that what you're saying?
Buying a good deal, yes. So your money's in the buy. You make your money in the buy. So let's say I'm going to go buy a building across the street, and it's listed for $500,000. That's retail price. So if I buy that and I hold it for 5 years or 10 years, where's my upside? Is it in appreciation? It's probably not going to cash flow at retail. I've got to run the numbers. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But depending on what the motivation of the seller is, where it's priced, but if it's at retail, most of the time those aren't going to make money. Now on the flip side, let's say that that same building is for sale, but the owner he's tired, he doesn't want to have it anymore. Let's say he has to have a refinance on his loan and he got it at 3% 4 years ago, and now he's got to refinance it, and it's going to be at 6.5 or 7%. He's got to lower the price so you can work something out there. But that's where you're going to make your money. You don't want to wait for the upside. You want to get it in the beginning.
Okay, so back to the network. That was great. That's an important thing to say, because as we're purchasing things or looking to purchase things, that's not a natural way to think. That's not a natural way to think. So I stopped you. So as you're thinking about building the network or building, what are those? That's a first way to think. What's another way that we need to be? Another few ways we need to be thinking when it comes to building the network.
Well, I think I did it for years, not knowing, which was part of the why I would love to go back and do it over again. Yeah. But I did it by myself for years and years, and I didn't think that there was any other way to do it. And when you see people in the news and you see these really successful people, lots of times you think they did it on their own. Nobody did. No. Everybody had, to some extent or a huge extent, had people supporting them, both financially or however, training them and teaching them. So that's the network is what makes it a better deal. And then also allowing you to scale, because it puts you into a different tier. You're at a different level. Your returns are better. And I didn't realize that until later on. And then I started hanging around other investment groups and getting to know people and watching what other people did. And I saw their returns and their successes, and I jumped on board. And so later.
and I think what you're really trying to encourage everyone to do is to begin, where they are, to start thinking about real estate, just to have some real estate. And then, don't think that it's impossible. No matter what situation you're in, don't think it's impossible, because there are creative ways to dive in. There are creative ways to even begin to think or even begin to grow and learn. And if you start now, it's only a matter of time before it can become a reality. As you think about people's personal situations, what would you encourage someone to do with their personal finances? Maybe not the investing amount, but their personal finances, getting those things ready so that they can begin to think outside of themselves and think about properties. When you think about someone's personal finance, what would you encourage them with right now?
So if somebody were going to take on the fourplex or a threeplex, whatever, they have to know what they're going to have to come up with to make that deal happen. So talk with a lender. There's a lot of different people that can help them. But to find out what the money is going to have to, what money down or it's going to take to acquire that property and to get there. And this is going to sound funny, and you're going to laugh, because this plays a huge part in everybody's life. But all these nuts and bolts and stuff are the making it happen, but they're very small in the mindset. And I've always been an optimist, so I've always been, I'm moving so fast and doing so many different things going on that I don't have time to be on the down. But when you slow down and you start to get that negative self-talk, that's when you'll destroy yourself.
What do you do practically to keep the conversation in your mind, the self-talk, positive? What do you do?
I think I've done it for so long that it's become natural. But I do remember back when I was acquiring that trait and getting out of that, because we all have had, bad days, self-talk, but just to keep on the up and keep on moving, stay physically active, that's huge. That's a very big part of everybody's life, that's a healthy thing, which keeps your mind healthy. And I think just probably, I don't know, I read a lot of self-help books. I read so many self-help books when I was a kid, and it was all those positive, think big, and those things. And a lot of those things are really inspiring. So if you've got a good book that resonates with you and it inspires you and it makes you feel like going out and accomplishing something, read it again. Or read 5 of them and read them again.
Yeah. So you're hitting on something. You just said it, and I love that. It's like something that I would encourage even just myself or just others as they're thinking about this is don't read more books. Just apply the one book more. Right. Like maybe read less quantity and read a really quality, positive book for your life, and just apply more in that. Apply more of that content practically in the day-to-day, and you'll actually get more out of it. Instead of, I kind of got into a groove there for a few years where it was like, hey, just read as much as possible. And like that was just not a good – I wasn't applying near enough. And it was just like, hey, read this one and just apply as much as you can this year. And just do that one book for the year, when it comes to a self-help or an encouragement, positive kind of book, or even a business type of book. It's like, hey, there's a lot of reviews, or get somebody else that's smart that loves to reading to do it for you, and then to recommend it. And like, hey, what's the 2 books that you'd recommend this year? Even just that one book that you recommended, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's a very famous, good start. Well, just do something in that book that could get you on the path to where you want to go. What's the question that I'm not asking? Because I'm not even close to the real estate guy that you are. So, not even close. So what's the one question that I'm not asking that I should be asking you to actually help me or help us gain some knowledge that you actually have to give us?
I'm not really sure. I have to think about that because there's so many different things as far as real estate. Real estate's a long play. It's not a short term unless you're going to do flips or something. But whether you're an investor or somebody who's in the field and you're making deals happen, I think just stay with it. Learn it and get there. And you can be the real estate investor. There's a lot of people that I know that they know the deals from the numbers, but they don't know the nuts and bolts. But they're making killer money, And those are the people that are coming in. They're buying into deals. They're being partners, and that's what they do. So,
last question, maybe last question. We'll see. How do I become a partner without having to know everything?
Well, that's easy. If you have money and you want to invest it in a deal, then make sure that you get on board with somebody you know, like, and trust.
And that sounds easy. That sounds easy. But what if you don't have? Let's say you don't have a ton of money. Let's say, what's the minimum amount of money that you need to become a partner and maybe even build some trust with somebody, in your opinion?
Well, there's people that are putting deals together where they do crowdfunding, and their minimums, I think you can even be at $1,000. So, and people are jumping on board with those. There's other ones where they have different levels being accredited investors, and those people are somebody who has a certain net worth or a certain income level, and that puts them in a different classification as far as with SEC rules and all that kind of stuff. So that's another tier, but the people who are not unaccredited, could go into the crowdfunding side and they could still invest in property. So,
do you have any resources that you could, where you could send people, like to look for those types of things, or if someone's interested or they to want to learn more, maybe that you haven't shared with us yet?
There's a lot of groups.
That's the best place to learn, is you would say groups?
Well, let me back up. It's not necessarily the groups. If you're looking for an investment on a crowdfunding, there's groups to find deals. Let's put it that way. Bigger pockets, connected investors, just a lot of different groups across the United States, I think even across the world, that you can find groups that are doing deals, that have deals to offer, and you can get in at different levels, in different investment groups. And a lot of investment groups, that's exactly what they do. You've got the people that are making deals happen and the people that are there to invest in their deals.
As you think about maybe just a listener or even myself that's like very interested in real estate and maybe wants to take that next step, what's the final thought that maybe something that you haven't said just yet that you would leave them with? Because we could even talk about the business side, because you also run some very successful businesses and you've done a lot in that. So I think that's amazing, and because you put you build teams and you accomplish, and you're doing a lot of work in that field. So if you bring everything together, what's a good maybe thought or question that we could ask ourselves to take the step that we need to take when it comes to real estate or even business?
What's your goal? Where are you trying to go? Do you have a goal? What is it that you want to accomplish with a business or real estate? Is it retirement? Is it to quit your job? And put that together. Think about what it is that your end goal is, and then set that up, and then reverse engineer and put that back. For example, like say that there's a guy who wants to invest in a property. His goal is retirement. He wants to get away from his job. Maybe he wants to create enough money that he can retire early. So he wants to get a cash flow and quit his job. And so when his cash flow exceeds his job income, he can walk away.
Is there, when you're thinking about goals, is it only numerically, or is it also maybe does it actually also have some like color commentary, or is it like a style, or what's a good goal format in your opinion?
I think everybody's is different because some people maybe finances isn't their main thing. It's something. It's a vehicle to get them there. But they're not focused on the money, but they want a lifestyle. They want peace, whatever it is. Yeah. But set that goal and then see what it takes to get you there. And that most of the time it's money, because that does make life better.
Yeah. Is there? I love this. As you think about, sorry, I said it was the last question. Then I just keep getting more. So as you think about someone that's trying to set a goal, I think I've always heard that it's a good idea to find somebody else that you can maybe even learn a little bit from. You don't have to know them or even ever talk to them, but you can actually like say, hey, here's the type of person, or here is that person that seems that they've done some hard work, they've had some losses, they've had some successes, and the way that they're living their life now is something that I'm interested in. And you can kind of even learn to reverse engineer maybe the character that they have and figure out how to get there. How quick and easy is it for you to pivot? Have you ever set a goal where you've had to pivot?
All my life.
Okay.
But a lot of my goals don't change.
Sure.
But the process and the journey does. So, but we're still, the end result's still there. But pivoting midstream because something didn't work out to get something else done always happens, all the time.
Is that a part of being patient?
Oh, yeah. Because if you didn't, most people walk away. Look at how many businesses fail.
Yeah. Teach us, maybe let's wrap up with this. Teach us how to be patient. Because right now, it's very immediate focused.
Everybody's impatient. I mean, we're all impatient. It's an impatient world.
So how can I learn to be more patient, and why should I?
That's a tough one. I think the only way you're going to get to your goal is to realize that it's a stepping process. And maybe understanding the time frame it's taking to get from point A to point B in a realistic way is the best way to assess that, and to put those steps on paper to see that, hey, I'm here now, and write down in 30 days, I've made it to this point, and acknowledge that, and keep on moving, because you're moving in the right direction. Because nothing's going to happen overnight, but everybody wants it to be that way.
You know, we've talked a lot about, real estate in this conversation, but outside of this, we talk a lot about what it actually takes. And it takes more than we think it will every time.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And you can't be afraid of hard work if you really want to get somewhere.
And could you remove the fear for myself and the listener? Remove the fear of hard work for us as we close, if you don't mind.
I have two thoughts on that. One is, if your goal is really, or you're really passionate about your goal, the work won't matter. It won't even, you'll just get up from day one till the time you go to bed, and you'll be thinking about how passionate you are about that goal. Now, if you can't find the passion, you need to find your why, of why you want to get there, to inspire you to get there. And what was the other? There was remind me of the question again. Okay, so
I was just thinking about it. It's really important for us to have fear constantly be removed.
Fear. Okay.
The fear of the hard work.
The fear, I don't know, other than just changing your self-talk is going to be the biggest thing to get away from fear. And we're all afraid of everything every day. Every time I make a new move, sometimes, I can't hesitate on my decisions, but there's always that thought in the back of your mind, thinking about moving the right way. And a lot of times, back to like the whole reason that we met, is God keeps planning and putting different pathways in front of me, and all I do is say, well, it seems like I should go this way, because that's what's there. And it makes sense, because it's laid out every day.
Mm-hmm. And things make sense because you know where you want to go, and you have a lot of alignment. Hey, that makes sense because it seems aligned with the character that I have, the way that I want to live, the style that I'm trying to the lifestyle that I'm trying to live with. And that makes a ton of sense. It's hard to make decisions in the moment if you don't know where you want to go with your life. You're constantly having to negotiate with yourself instead of have a point of no hesitation. I think really good decision makers are good at making decisions because they know the direction that they want to go with their life.
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm encouraged every time I'm with you because life seems so matter of fact, and you have so many variables that you're juggling at the same time. And you know it's going to work out. And you don't necessarily know how, but you do know why it's going to work out. Because of the character, the dreams, the aspirations are good.
Yes. I have a suggestion for the audience. Okay, so you were asking me, this is probably one of the things that will get people up and moving. Now, this is going to be, it's a challenge because it seems very easy. Go write your goals down. Now, there's a format because you need to have all the different pieces of a goal or your goals, your life, finances, spiritual, all the different aspects, right? Write those down. Put them on paper. In the morning when you wake up, at very minimum, read them out loud, but read them with heart. Read them with, I'm going to do this. And then at night, do the same thing. If you want to do it more, that's fine, but at least twice a day. By the 15th or 16th day, you'll actually feel like they're happening, or they have happened. Your mind will actually think you're there.
Is that because it's in front of you, you think?
I think you just this is the way our brains are worked. The way they work is that you're training yourself to be there. Yeah. And the way there's one other piece you have to do. On the goal, you have to write I have, or I own, or I did something in future tense that you haven't done. So say somebody doesn't have a house. So on their goal sheet, they say, I own a home in,
Right.
and they put a date. You have to put a date on it because you have to have a deadline. But if you keep reading that, and your brain will actually start to be part of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way that I've seen it in a more like a principled approach is what you pay attention to, you will make progress in.
Yes.
So the principle is that, and then you're really specific, and the more specific you are, the smarter it is, right? The smarter meaning the like smart goal setting, specific, measurable, attainable, real, and timely. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell smart. So
You got that down pretty good.
it came out of nowhere. So, but like that, those are smart goals. And then what I'm paying attention to, if it's like a finance, it's like I'm looking at them on a consistent basis. And then the more attention I put on it, it's like then I am aware. And as I'm more aware, my habits start to change, and who I am starts to line up with what I want.
Absolutely.
And I think that's such a good, practical, note-taking, detailed thing for somebody that really wants to make progress.
You can do that in any aspect.
Oh yeah.
You know?
You can do that in or anywhere that you are.
Yeah.
Anywhere you are in the world.
If you want to quit a habit.
Yeah, sure. It's honestly, it's really a human approach to getting somebody from where they are to where they want to be. It's another way to say it is it's if you act as if you have it, then it's only a matter of time before you do.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And by the 15th or 16th day, I didn't believe this, but
do you really think it's that short? That's only 2 weeks in a day.
I did it the very first time I did it.
Oh, so you've actually practiced this regularly?
I have a card in my pocket that
Come
I read.
on.
Yeah.
Let me see the card.
Okay, you can't read it, but I'll
No, it's
show it to
okay.
you.
It's okay. I don't want to read it. I want to see the card. Oh, and it's typed up.
Yep. So
And
I
it's
read it.
laminated.
Yep.
Two-sided.
Yep.
Come on. So you carry it with you.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Dang, that's good. How often do you look at it a day?
I do it every day. Sometimes.
Do you do it more than twice?
Probably 10, 15 times a day.
Wow. Okay. All right. I think so, Scott. That is what I think is so cool about spending time with you. Is that you are high practitioner. Like you're not just saying things just to say them. You are actually doing everything that you're saying and encouraging others to do.
Yeah.
Which is why I appreciate it so much. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having this conversation. This is fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I'm looking
Thanks
forward.
for having me.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to yours and what you're going to do and how you're going to help people when it comes to business and real estate. So, Full Vantage Podcast, real estate perspective from Scott Cobb, Denver native. Thank you guys for joining us. See you later.
Thank you.